Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome to my channel. Um, this is the second part. This is dating in 2023. It's Red Pill. This video I found from Kira TV. I'll have the link in the description if you want to see his full video. Very interesting content. Let's get started. Let's check it out. Let's see what we think.
Most people believe that due to the shift of society being online, there is no alternative to meet potential friends or romantic relationships without dating apps. Instead, they find themselves swiping on Tinder, where statistically and common sense dictates results are directly tied to one attribute and one attribute alone: attractiveness. Let's be honest, most of us are not that good looking, and on an app that is basically unhealthy fast food, of course people are going to pick the tastiest snacks. There isn't nutritional value there that they care about because they're there for a quick bite, and whatever looks the nicest is going to be picked. The common sense thing here is that this has nothing to do with women or men. Of course, the Red Pill does present it as such, where women only want a 6-foot tall Giga Chad. This just has everything to do with the fact of the matter. If you show someone 10 people without any real indication of other redeemable or disqualifying traits, asking them to pick from the list using exclusively only their physical appearance, of course the result will mean the most attractive people get the most results. This leads to men becoming disenfranchised and thinking that women only want them if they're this thing that they are not, which essentially removes all of their responsibility in the situation, because what are they going to do? Grow taller? Get more attractive suddenly? When you take the problem out of somebody's hands and...
Yeah, that's the thing that's in society, I guess, right now. Is I saw some statistic that, in history, most men didn't even procreate, didn't even pass on their genes, didn't have any kids, and yes, there's this thing called hypergamy. That's what he's talking about, that women are always looking for, like he said, 6 foot tall, handsome, dark, have money, whatever it is, and a lot of these things, men don't have control over, but also a lot of men growing up, we realize this, I'm 5'7", so it's like I was a short guy, you know what I mean, and you just realize that, yeah, I'm not 6 feet tall. I'm not gonna get certain attention. I'm not gonna get certain, and I'm not the best looking guy in the world either. So, you get checked as a man growing up. You're like, okay, I understand my place, and I think that's what, as with women, that just doesn't happen. From a little girl, you're told you're a princess, you deserve a prince. You're all this Disney stuff that they pump into these little girls' heads, and everyone thinks they're 10. And everyone thinks that they're, and no one gets put back in their place. I mean, the girls on the screen, they're average. You know what I mean? And most girls are average. But women are they're allowed to just become delusional. And I guess it was okay to a point. Like, you don't want to be mean to them and be like, but at some point their parents or their mother or somebody has to say, hey, listen, man, you're not so great. You really aren't. I mean, and I think that living from a place of, like, some humbleness about yourself and about the reality of how you look, or what you have to give to others, is far better than thinking that you're the best and you have everything and you're the prize, and the whole attitude that you should be you should be happy I'm with you kind of deal. I think men and women should be approaching relationships in the same manner, humble.
their own ability to influence it, of course they're going to turn to things that are external and start blaming the people that are making these decisions, because they can't blame themselves, can they? Obviously there is a factor that society has moved forward for women as well, giving them greater opportunities for careers and for pay. This has essentially killed the one main selling point every man on the planet had in the dating economy of old times, which is an income. Now men are required to bring more to the table than just a paycheck, at a time when men seem more lost in their own value than ever before.
More than a paycheck, right? And this, you know, a lot of this red pill stuff started, or not started, but, you know, came from modern feminism. You know, this whole thing that women should be doing everything men do. And I don't agree. I don't agree that women should be taking the lead. Women should be, you know, going for CEOs, becoming a CEO of companies, anything like that. I believe that for a woman to be fulfilled and happy in her life, it's to be a wife, to be a mother, and to raise her children. I believe that those things, which, you know, you could call them one thing or three things, but those things are the most fulfilling to a woman. And yes, I mean, I'm 47, so I understand the concept of like when you do drugs and there's like, oh man, this feels so good, this is great, and then you become like, oh my God, I'm an addict now. And how did I get to this place? This thing sucks. That is also applied to other things in your life. When you start getting stuff and you're just like, wow, this is the greatest thing, and it doesn't pan out, well, that was something that's like that doesn't really it's a deception, you see. But when you do things like, okay, you have a marriage, you and your husband have a connection, you guys have children. Well, 30 years down the road, when those kids grow up and they're decent people, and you've tried to be a moral person, you are going to be fulfilled as a person. You're going to be like, wow, I did something. This is great. This is a success. But these other things, they just come and they go. They come and they go. The things that last are the things that you're gonna really, really love in the end. That are gonna really mean something to you, to your family, and to people around you.
Also, because of healthcare increasing, it means that women can have children later, so they're not rushed by biology to have children when they're very young, which means they're going to mature and make better decisions about which type of people they're going to have in their life for the long term. Now, is this the common man's fault? Sure, somewhat, a little bit, because everybody can change and they all bear responsibility for their own circumstances to an extent. But it's also just the way society now exists, and it's kind of happened without anybody really paying too much attention until the problem now exists. And realistically, it's not a question of right or wrong. All of this, and much more, leads to the bigger overall problem of why the red pill and manosphere has grown so exponentially. What do I mean? Well, in just about every walk of life, it's easier to blame something that isn't you. If you are this average unsocialized man who has little to no friends, no luck with the opposite sex, life's passing you by and you just don't know what to do about it, you've got no confidence, and your options for who to blame are yourself or society, chances are you're going to blame society. It's just easier to do. It's the self-defeating reality that if you do make the choice to blame society, it's going to change nothing about the circumstance and only send you down a path of manosphere, which is going to be further self-destruction, but that's what people are doing, whether knowingly or not. Now, of course, there are a million social stigmas of talking about problems or opening up emotionally to people, which for whatever reason is frowned upon as a man, but even less likely to happen since, again, statistically men these days have less friends, and with the growing manosphere influence, those friends are more likely to tell you to stop being a pussy and watch a video about Andrew Tate with Giga Chad music in the background. Because
this all goes back to faith. having faith in something larger than yourself, which would be God, which in my case is Jesus Christ. The thing is that the reasons for all of these things going that way is because there's no foundation. You see, a person who believes in a higher power understands that they need to look at themselves. It's a constant. Life is a mirror. It's not a window, right? So you look and you're like, okay, this situation happened. I felt this way about it. You look at what you're doing. You are 50% of every single problem. If you identify a problem, well, you're part of it, right? Okay, so then I can do something to affect it. Now I can't solve it because there's other factors involved, but there's always something that you can do that can help out. You see, you can even change your attitude, change your mindset about something. But yeah, what he's saying is true, is that they're going to blame society. They're going to be like, well, it's because of everything outside of me that's affecting me, and that's why I can't do this or I can't do that. But in reality, and if you go and you watch successful people, that's where they come to a point where they're like, wait, I need to stop focusing on all of these things that are, coming at me, and I got to do what I can do, and these are biblical values. Everything goes back to virtue and character, morals. Where do morals come from? Yeah, we'll go. That's too much to go into, but
because of course that will fix all of your problems. Talking about them would be something only a beta male does. You obviously can't talk about it on social media either, because if I've seen anything about this, it's that people are just going to come in and say you don't deserve to have problems because you're probably just a man. So of course when nobody's talking to you, nobody's listening to you, nobody's really representing your problems, when somebody shows up who looks like they're in shape, who looks like they're a really masculine man, who's doing all the things that you want to do, who lives the life that you would love to live, and he's the only person talking to you, of course you're probably going to listen. And these are just some of the factors that led us to where we are today. I'm sure there's going to be more, but I could be talking about this all day without addressing the next point, which is that the red pill is just capitalism and greed from lying narcissists who are LARPing as the saviors of young men, while instead just causing them harm. The advice they give is terrible for 97% of their audience, meaning that they're selling out the vast majority, and the 3% who wind up becoming wealthy following their advice will make the situation even worse for the other 97%.
Okay, I understand what he's saying, and it's pretty strongly worded. But when do we ever, I know it's a slippery slope, but when do we ever take responsibility for ourselves? So 97% of men that are watching them, and I guess they're being taken advantage of, right? Here, I gotta move this.
It's a toxic wasteland of a few useful pieces of life advice wrapped up in hate that will poison an impressionable man's brain into becoming a worse person, and therefore even less.
All right, sorry about that. I had to get that Sneako's face off my screen. It was throwing me off. But it's true what he's saying about that. But I always go back to personal responsibility, and I understand that if you didn't have someone to show you how to be responsible or what it looks like to be responsible, but we can't just blame these guys for taking, advantage of what they see. They go out there and a lot of people that start in this space or go out and create, they don't know it all. But yeah, they portray as they do, and people watch them and people follow them, and then they learn, and then they, hopefully they correct what they've been saying. But it's like Pandora's box, man. This whole thing was let out. The internet, you can't stop any of this stuff. You can't. The only thing you can really do, as I see it, is prepare. Try to discern what's good, what's evil, but yeah, I mean, it's hard. It's hard, man. 97%, I don't know.
Likely to ever find a woman who would want anything to do with them.
The devil's in the details.
Now, if there's something else the internet has taught me, hate is a very powerful tool. Once you recognize that the easiest way to build influence is to turn one group against another, you will see it in everything that people do online. Politics is probably the most prevalent one. It's us versus them. We are the righteous, they are the evil. Everything we do is okay, everything they do is bad. If we do the same things, it's for good reasons, but they're doing it for bad ones. Every conflict is black and white. Why? Because it's easy and it feels good. The barrier for entry to this conflict is super low, it's way more accessible than any form of nuance would be, and it's easy to digest. It simply works. And that's exactly what the manosphere has done to convince these men, who already were willing to believe things because they didn't want to blame themselves. They've told them it's team men versus team women. They use anecdotes of when a woman does something bad or wrong, and pretend as if they're not anecdotes at all, that there can't be good women and bad women, like there's good men and bad men. It's just all evidence that women are built this way and they are the problem. So they're making everything simple by design, and I can't say for sure that all the people doing this are lying or grifting, but I can say that given enough time, each one of them gets caught living a contradictory life to what they tell their audience to live. Whether it's saying paying for sex is for losers and you shouldn't do that, and then being caught on sugar baby websites trying to find women to pay to hang out with.
You approached me on a sugar daddy website and asked me to be your sugar baby, and then couldn't afford my allowance.
Never did.
He couldn't afford my $10,000 allowance a month and said, haha, that's funny, why don't you just come on my podcast instead?
Or saying sex workers like OnlyFans girls are the bane of society, and yet platforming them constantly, which results in their audience subbing to them and making them more successful. Or of course having those women on the podcast and having sex with them, yet calling them 304s, which is the red pill slang for hoes. Or maybe it's when they say that single mothers are used goods and they're worthless, but then get caught being married to a previous single mother who they lied about and said that her daughter was his niece, because he was just too ashamed to admit that he loved a single mother and her daughter.
I got a 13-year-old niece that stays here at least twice a week.
And so as we now look at her application on the screen and go to the section describing her household, it states, do you have dependents? Yes. Does dependent live with you? Yes. Dependent's age, 10 years old.
Or of course when they call out girls for being fake and having plastic surgery and using makeup, but then get hair plugs, liposuction, fake teeth, and use makeup on their own podcasts. Maybe it's safe.
Oh my god, that's pretty funny. I guess, I mean, it's both sides. I mean, you're seeing the worst of both sides. You're seeing the worst of how women are, and these guys, they're, I guess, he's saying they're hypocrites because they're doing the same thing. And yeah, it's true. It looks like they're grifting, trying to make some money off of it. But, I tell my boys, if you want to start a relationship with a woman, I would tell them, no, try not to have a relationship with a woman who's already been married, with a woman who's has already had kids. You want a woman that loves you for you and wants to be with you and also have experiences with you. You can take her here, take her there. You guys can grow up together, live together, things like that. I just don't see value in my son saying, hey, I'm going to take care of you and your 2 kids, 1 kid, whatever it is. Because that also brings baggage into the relationship. She has someone else that, you're going to have to deal with. It's not just her. I see value in that. Now, let's say my son falls in love with someone who has a kid. I'm not going to down the woman and, tell my son, oh, you need to get rid of her and this and that. No, you deal with things as they come. But I'm also going to set the bar really, really high for my kids and say, hey, this is how you should do it. You shouldn't have sex before marriage. You should get married. then have sex. I mean, but if these things happen, well, I'm not gonna disown my kids. I'm not gonna, but that, you have to have the high standard. Now, when people don't meet the high standard, okay, then you deal with it, But for us to say, well, I'm not gonna have these standards, or I'm not gonna have this high standard just because there's so many single mothers out there, I think that's silly. But I can see this man's point. These guys, like he said, getting hair plugs, getting their, all this stuff, just like women do, and that's not masculine, bro.
Saying that men should never settle for a girl who has had a lot of sexual partners, but sleeping with every attractive woman that they can.
Yes.
A lot of girls are hoes. A lot of girls don't deserve a relationship. A lot of girls don't deserve marriage. And I know this is kind of controversial, but this is what I tell guys. I tell them you need to be at least 35 years old, have had sex with 50 girls.
Thus creating a world full of their alleged biggest problem and fucking up for all the guys they're supposed to be helping.
Yes, exactly. You said it exactly right, Kira. Exactly right.
The entire red pill space is basically rules for thee and not for me. Some of the funniest claims that you can disprove immediately, just if you've lived a real life at all, are that women are more than happy to let their boyfriend or husband cheat on them so long as that man is high value enough, meaning she will share her romantic partner out of fear that she couldn't get anybody so good, ignoring the fact that this person would then not be good to most women because they're not just out to use you as an ATM and live that life. This is not how adult relationships work.
Exactly.
With the vast majority of people.
Exactly.
Essentially, the whole red pill seems to be a way to justify living the life.
Look. That's why I come at this with the Christian view, meaning that no, that's ridiculous. That men should sleep with at least 50 women. Sex is not this thing that you have to experience and then learn what you like and what you don't like. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Okay? I mean, oh my gosh. You're going to figure it out. I promise. Okay? You get with a woman, you get married, you're going to figure it out. The point is if you're having so much sex, is it detrimental? If you're having sex out of wedlock, is it detrimental? And the answer is, of course it is. Okay? That doesn't mean if you have sex out of wedlock, it's over for you. Oh my God, you're going to hell. No, that's not what that means. Okay? But what we have to identify is what are the behaviors that we are, not allowing to happen, but we're promoting, or we're saying don't do this. Do those values, do they help our lives, or do they make things worse? And I believe that if you go out and have all kinds of sex, you're screwing yourself up, man or woman. I mean, you can see it more, I believe, with women because they get jaded. They start hating men. They don't trust men anymore. All men are trash. They can't find one. And men, the men who have all kinds of sex, they get desensitized to this. And I've watched videos about, like, I watched about a porn star. There was a guy that got saved, and and he was just talking about how it was just meaningless. Him having all that sex and doing all that, it made it meaningless, and it made him empty, and and it's just so true. I understand. It's like I was saying in another video, about people doing drugs. When you do drugs, oh man, this is so great, and then it becomes, that's the same thing, because sex was not intended for you to use it as your personal merry-go-round or your personal roller coaster. That's not what it's for. Sex is intended to bring the people who get married together. They become one flesh. They start to have a family. They have children, and they're like one. And this man, he loves his wife so much. It's like if he hurts her, he's hurting himself. That's what becoming one flesh means. And so, yes, the man, you guys are supposed to get together and not have any more sexual partners. That's how this works. Because I mean, just think about in your lifetime how much sex you're gonna have. At the end of your life, it's gonna be minutes, man. It's not gonna, maybe a few hours of your life, right? I mean, I just don't get this hyper focus on sex. It's just, you know, it will never bring meaning to your life, ever. That's not what its intention is.
Life of a teenage boy's dream, sleeping with a different Instagram model or OnlyFans girl every night, telling everyone who disagrees with the red pill that they are a beta male, blue-pilled soy boy. But this is a lie. The whole
Beta
red
male
pill is a lie. You only have to engage with the simplest concept to understand that. For example, these guys preach that the way to break free of all your problems is to become a high-value man.
Nope.
Meaning that you're in shape and wealthy.
Nope.
The percentage of people who are in shape and wealthy is like 3% or lower. So by that definition, it cannot happen to 97% of their audience. Meaning they're giving very specific advice to a very small number of people. But the vast majority of people are listening, and it isn't solving any of their massive problems. It's actually making it worse. Maybe if you are a multimillionaire who's in good shape, you can treat women the way that they do. But the problem is that when the vast majority of their audience is hearing that advice and seeing how they live, and then they're treating women the same way, that's not helping them, that is hurting them. And since the title of this video will be something about how incredibly successful and profitable the business of exploiting lonely men is, let's look at how successful it is. Fresh and Fit is probably the biggest self-help guru red pill podcast, and they're pulling in tens of millions of views per month on just YouTube alone, which used to be, before they got demonetized, easily over $50,000 a month just in ads, without product placement, without donations from their fans, without their courses that they sell, without their other platforms like Rumble. And you don't have to go far to see just how low effort and low class this space can be in terms of the people that can pull in millions of views, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions a year.
Okay, what did he say?
To go far to see just how low effort and low class this space can be.
Low effort and low class. You know, I don't know, man. I wouldn't go that far. You know, saying it's yeah, but okay.
In terms of the people that can pull in millions of views, earning hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions a year, I mean, just look at this dude. He's a VTuber of a low animated JPEG vampire who never shows his face.
Taylor the
his entire
Fiend.
content is reacting to women on TikTok, telling his audience of bitter, angry and lonely men that all the women on the videos are used up 304s who no one will ever love, and how it's all their own fault. It's basically not giving anybody advice, just a space to come where they can point at women and say, haha, that's your fault, you didn't love me. So
okay, I can kind of agree with that, you know, but I would like to know what Kira's solution is.
It's good that you're upset and bad things are happening in your life. It's plain and simple, people just feeling content to live in hate. In the real world, the solution to men's problems don't need all of this, and it definitely doesn't need all the conspiracy theories, anti-Semitism, racism and other nonsense that gets platformed at the same time by all these podcasts and manosphere grifters. Obviously, I've acknowledged the problem is real, that there is a growing number of men who are really struggling with how to live their life, but there are things that they can do. And I'm also sure that these platforms or these people do sometimes give good advice, and people have made positive steps in their life due to that advice and would claim that they've been helped by Andrew Tate and the Red Pill and things like that. I'm not saying that that's not possible, but there's a limit to the advice that they're giving where it goes overboard into very, very unhelpful things. Of course, you should definitely go to the gym, you should eat right, you should sleep at a regular time for 8 hours if you can. Most importantly, you should find hobbies that put you in the real world with your peers. Work at socializing, find people who like the things that you do, and of course treat people like they're individuals who deserve to start out with a blank slate of who they are, and not with a list of preconceived and negative attributes that some guy on the internet told you were true while profiting from doing so. For every negative anecdote that you hear, you can also just find a positive one too. So this is actually a huge problem in society now, and if you were paying attention, You saw this coming a long time ago. Even before Andrew Tate showed up and accelerated the movement forward and into the mainstream, there were communities just full of hating women, like the Red Pill subreddit, the incel forums. These things existed and were growing exponentially in popularity. So where does all this end? Well, who knows? The issue is that this problem is yet again turned into another internet war, where it's us versus them, and people are drawing.
Okay, so I guess Kira's remedy for this problem would be, to work out, take care of yourself, But I honestly think that there's a void. Like this red pill, all this stuff. The void was, it's godlessness. So if you don't believe in God, and you don't have a foundation, you can easily be swooped up by this ideology. You see what I mean? The answer is faith in God, which is a higher power. A lot of these men are so low down in the dumps. They see an Andrew Tate, they see a Fresh and Fit, or whoever it is, and they come out and they start saying this, and they think, wow, maybe that is what I'm missing. When in the end, it is you're missing God. And I'm not talking about, just G-O-D. I'm talking about Jesus Christ, okay? Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and the life, okay? If you find out that he is real and he is the one, and everything that he teaches, it combats all of this. It literally will just take this out of your life, because your perspective will change. You'll start thinking in a different way. You won't have the mindset of this red pill world, of this, Now, you got to be, what is it? You got to be wise. You got to be able to discern. You got to be able to see that, yes, there are hoes out there. Yes, there are people out there that are trying to take advantage of you, your money, your emotions, everything. But, I'm here to tell you that you need to get a perspective, a biblical perspective, a foundation, a biblical foundation. And if you have that, then you can go out there and figure out what's going on. But, the deception is real, my friends. Thank you for listening. See you on the next one.